What's up, YouTube? I know the NBA Finals is going on, but I want to talk a little bit about Giannis Antetokounmpo because for the first time in Giannis's career, it feels like he could actually be traded. And I have a team in mind, and that is the Toronto Raptors, man. I know a lot of you probably think you keep hearing, the San Antonio Spurs, the OKC Thunder if they don't win the finals, or even I've been hearing some people say the Indiana Pacers. But I want to come on here and talk about Giannis to the Toronto Raptors because I think this could be one of the more interesting moves in the offseason. And I think it's more realistic than I think some people may think. But first, let's talk about Giannis and the Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks are clearly on the decline, and they haven't had a true championship roster since 2022. And that was a season they were defending champions, and they lost to the Boston Celtics in round two, choking that 3-2 lead. But the Bucks, man, they took obviously a huge swing trading for Dame 2 years ago, but that hasn't worked out. But mostly that's due to injury, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that. But next season, obviously we know that Damian Lillard tore his Achilles, so he's likely not going to play next season. So this could be really ugly if Giannis does tend to stay with the Bucks, which I tend to think that he will not be with the Milwaukee Bucks next season. I would be surprised, honestly, if Giannis was still on the Bucks next season. Why do I say this? Because the second best player on the Bucks next season will probably be Kyle Kuzma or 38-year-old Brook Lopez, or maybe even a Kevin Porter Jr. if he decides to take that step up. But man, I just really do think that this Milwaukee Bucks team has run its course, and I think they should trade Giannis. It's time to go young and kickstart the rebuild with a haul for Giannis. Like, the haul you would get for Giannis is just insane. I'm going to go over what this trade would look like if the Raptors. I have a whole mock trade and everything for the Raptors for Giannis, so we'll go over that a little bit later. But man, there's so many different, hauls. Like every team in the league is going to obviously be interested in Giannis. This is a top two player in the world, in my opinion, after Nikola Jokic. I think he's the second best player in the league, like I said, after Nikola Jokic. But I just really think Giannis is being held back from the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, this is a guy, he hasn't made an All-NBA defensive team since like 2022. Obviously, he still makes All-NBA first teams, but he hasn't really had a serious chance at an MVP since like 2021, I think is the last time he won it, or 2020, something like that. It's been years since Giannis was like a true, MVP candidate. I know he keeps finishing like top three, but it's usually just between like last year it was between Shea, Luka, and Jokic, and this year it was really between Shea and Jokic, with Giannis finishing in third. But I think, if you look at Giannis's numbers like the past couple of years, you could see like these are MVP numbers. He just doesn't really have the wins or the team success that you would need from an MVP. So, man, Giannis has really been held back by this Milwaukee Bucks team, and I think it's finally time that he requests that trade. I expect it to be official right after the NBA Finals is over and the NBA draft is done. I expect Giannis to be on the move, and that official trade request will come. I expect, at least. I would, like I said, I would be shocked if Giannis was still on the Milwaukee Bucks next season. But why does this make sense for the Toronto Raptors? Man, the Raptors haven't had a true superstar since Kawhi Leonard, which seemed to work out pretty well. I mean, they got a championship in his 1 year there. And Masai Ujiri has long-standing interest with Giannis. He wanted him in Toronto during the 2013 NBA draft. And another key factor that I think people aren't factoring in is that the Eastern Conference is going to be wide open next year. With the Boston Celtics retooling and Tatum being out for the year, the East is wide open. Obviously, you got I almost said the Indianapolis Colts. The Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers will probably be my top two teams in the East right as of right now. But I really like what Philly, like a healthy Philly, obviously we know they're probably never going to be healthy, but if they somehow can get healthy, they have one of the best rosters in the league. Joel Embiid, Jared McCain, they have the third overall pick, probably going to pick Ace Bailey. Maybe Paul George can have sort of a resurgence. Tyrese Maxey, Quentin Grimes is going crazy towards the end of the year, like when he went to Philly. Like, Philly has a very, very good roster if they're healthy. Obviously, the Bucks are out of the picture if Giannis is not there. But I think the Raptors can sort of fit in with those four teams there. I don't expect the Celtics without Tatum. Like you guys know I'm a Celtics fan. I don't expect them to be serious contenders next year without Jason Tatum, and they're going to be retooling that roster. I don't expect Porzingis or Holiday to still be on the team. So yeah, the East, like I said, is very wide open. If there is any time to make a big splash for like a Giannis, if you're an Eastern Conference team, it is definitely right now. But the mock trade I have for the Toronto Raptors and the Milwaukee Bucks, I have the Bucks receiving Scotty Barnes, Ochai Agbaji, Jacoby Walter, the 2025 first round pick, which is the ninth overall pick in this year's draft, the 2027 first round pick, and a 2029 first round pick. And the Raptors receive, obviously, Giannis Antetokounmpo. What would the Raptors' projected starting lineup be with this Giannis move? You got IQ, Emmanuel quickly at the 1, RJ Barrett at the 2, Brandon Ingram. I think a lot of people are forgetting that the Toronto Raptors did trade for Brandon Ingram at the trade deadline. He hasn't even played a game with the Toronto Raptors because he's been injured. But man, next year, I mean, I'm really hoping we get that Brandon Ingram, who was an all-star caliber player. His first 4 years, like, go look at the first 4 years. Brandon Ingram's first 4 years with the New Orleans Pelicans, like, he put up some very great numbers. He was always an all-star caliber player. He made the all-star team 1 year, and I think he also won most improved. But the starting lineup, Emmanuel quickly, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Giannis, and Jakob Poeltl. Like, I think that is a very, very solid starting lineup. But the reason why I like Brandon Ingram's pairing with Giannis so much is because I think Brandon Ingram could sort of be that Chris Middleton. What Chris Middleton's role was for Giannis and that Milwaukee Bucks team when they're, when they won a championship and they're always competing for titles. But I think Brandon Ingram can be the closer just like Chris Middleton was. He can give you buckets and he can give you 20 to 25 a night. I think Brandon Ingram is totally capable of doing that. And RJ Barrett, man, he quietly actually had a great season this year with the Toronto Raptors. He averaged 21, 6, 5 on 47, 35, and 63 splits. I know that free throw percentage, 63% from the free throw. That is horrible. Like, that is terrible. RJ Barrett definitely needs to get that up. But Emmanuel quickly, he just needs to stay healthy, but he still put up 17, 3, and 6. But like I said, it's always been health with him. I wouldn't say it's always been health with him, but as far as his Toronto Raptors career, it has been health with him. But when he was with the Knicks, he was fairly healthy. I believe he finished second in Sixth Man of the Year 1 year with his last season with the New York Knicks. But Emmanuel quickly, I've always liked his game, and I think he's finally ready for that starting spot role on a good team. And with Giannis, I think that would be amazing. And then Jakob Poeltl, I think he's one of the more underrated centers in the league. But yeah, like I said, I already mentioned the almost saying Indianapolis Colts because I've been talking about them like on Twitter recently. But Indiana Pacers, Philadelphia 76ers, the New York Knicks, the Cavaliers, the Pistons, and the Magic are like the only legitimate threats, I would say. Those are like the main talked about teams, I guess, going into next season. Those would be like my top 5 or 6-ish. Where do the Toronto Raptors fit in with them? I think they're definitely better than the Magic. The Pistons, I think, are going to make a splash for like a Devin Booker. So we got to wait and see with them. I'm going to take them over the Knicks, and I'm probably going to take them over the Philadelphia 76ers. So the only teams going into next year that I would take over a Giannis-led Raptors team with the lineup I just told. I didn't even talk about Grady Dick, who would be the not sixth man of the year, who would be the sixth man for this Toronto Raptors team. But the only teams I would probably take 100% over the Giannis-led Raptors team is the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So yeah, I think I would like this move a lot, and I think Giannis definitely needs to go get out of Milwaukee, and I would love to see him with the Toronto Raptors. I'm not a big Toronto Raptors fan because I'm a Boston Celtics fan, but if I'm going to do this sports media stuff and have this YouTube channel, I can't be biased, and I think Giannis to the Raptors makes a ton of sense. But just do not be surprised when Giannis is a Toronto Raptor this summer, because I'm honestly kind of expecting it. I don't think it's going to be one of these teams that people are expecting, like the Spurs or the Rockets. I don't think it's going to be one of those teams, man. I really do think the Toronto Raptors are going to make a splash. And I'm not going to lie, dude. If the Toronto Raptors could somehow figure out how to get Giannis without giving up Scotty Barnes or Brandon Ingram, that's even scarier. That's a legitimate big three. You could run Scotty at the 1. That would be pretty interesting, and I would love to see that. But It's Giannis. He's a top 2 player in the world. I don't think you're going to be able to get Giannis without giving up Scotty Barnes. But if you can somehow do that, I've seen some mock trades, and I'm like, but I didn't want to include that in this video because it's not realistic. I try to be realistic as possible. And Scotty Barnes will likely be on the move. But still, I love, the starting lineup of IQ, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Giannis, Jakob Poeltl. And then you got Grady Dick on the bench, Jamal Shed on the bench. And, I really like this Toronto Raptors team. Even if they don't get Giannis, I still like them going into next season. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that. I've been talking about it. But I would love to see Giannis on this Toronto Raptors team. Let me know where you guys think Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to go. And since we're already here, let me know who you guys got winning the finals out of OKC and the Indiana Pacers. But yeah, let me know if you like Giannis to the Toronto Raptors or where you want to see him go. That's going to be it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.